truth. And of course, in the past, Kellie Maloney has promoted some of the biggest names in the fight game. I'm delighted to say that Kellie Maloney joins us live on the show. Kellie, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you too.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's talk about this new documentary. Why now?
I don't know. I wanted it to come out. I wanted it to be sort of an educational documentary so people could really see the struggle someone that goes through gender dysphoria has, how it can affect not just myself, but also the people in my life and your family, your friends, your colleagues at work. And hopefully that people can just see that we are just human beings who want to live our lives. And unfortunately, we were born with well, I call it a complaint, but no one else does. I just say with gender dysphoria.
Kellie, how much has your decision changed your life, I wonder? Because I remember before when you weren't Kellie Maloney, you were Frank Maloney, boxing promoter, and then along came the gender reassignment. The documentary picks up on this, of course it does, and it includes never-before-seen interviews with yourself, appearances from members of your family, friends, colleagues, and some archive footage. But this was a massive decision for you to have made. It must have been taken with enormous courage and one heck of a lot of thought.
Yeah, it took a long time. I was approached by a number of production companies to do this, and I listened to all of them. I went with the Americans because they made the Lennox Lewis story, and they seemed to be the most understanding, and they would do it the way I wanted it and would allow me an input into it because I wanted it to be truthful. I wanted to show the sadness and at the end the joy that it may bring someone, and then I wanted it to help people that are going through the same incidents that I've been through.
So, after, say, myself and Simon watch this documentary, we'll obviously have our own thoughts on it. If there's one message that you want to come through in the documentary, what is that message, would you say, Kellie?
The message is we're human beings. We just want to live our lives. We just want to get on with our lives, and we just want to be respected as human beings. And that really is a very simple message for all of us.
How has life been for you since you became Kellie Maloney?
I can't complain. I enjoy a very peaceful life. I've taken myself out of the media and out of the mainstream. I mean, this is the first sort of work I've done in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm only doing it now because the documentary's coming out. But once I've finished this row of press work, I will retire back to a very quiet life.
Why did you take yourself out of the mainstream? Obviously, I think it's absolutely right that people should be respected for the choices that they make and the choices that they feel that they need to make. But given the fact that you were in a public domain business, you were a very successful promoter. I met you a few times travelling around when watching Lennox fight in Madison Square Garden and other places when he fought Evander Holyfield. But what drove your decision to take you away from the mainstream?
I just felt the time had come. Life is very short, and I wanted to enjoy my life. I didn't want to be in the public eye, and there was quite a lot of transphobia, hate out there, and I don't really want to get into an argument with people because I am a very argumentative little person. But I believe everyone's entitled to their own view, and I respect people's views. If I disagree with it, I will say so, but I don't want to get into a war with J.K. Rowling's, with anybody else, or a lot of the people in the trans community don't like some of my views because I have very different views to a lot of people from my community. I don't believe trans women should be allowed to take part in female sports, especially in combat sports. I also don't see myself as a biological woman. I see myself as a medically constructed woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that the transgender umbrella is too big because it covers 72 different genders, and it is so confusing. And fundamentally, I am very different to a non-binary, to a gender neutral, gender fluid person, because
these are very sensible opinions, Kellie, and these would be the opinions that you wouldn't find yourself in confrontation with people like J.K. Rowling, and you'd find yourself in the same sort of space as people like Caitlyn Jenner that are observing from a very sensible and balanced point of view. And I think given the fact that you have transitioned into the space and environment and persona that you want to be, I think it's brave to do a documentary. I think you've made decisions with your life, and I think it's a shame that you aren't more visible, because the debate around trans is a very toxic one, and doesn't seem to be laced with a lot of common sense and a lot of ideologies, whereas you have balanced views that I think would be well received, because you're speaking from a point of view of knowing what you're speaking about and speaking about it from a very pragmatic point of view. So I think it's sad that you aren't a bit more visible.
Well, it comes to a time, Simon, when we all got to think about retiring. You know, I'm on the last leg of my life. So I enjoy my life with my family, with my friends. I'm still a Millwall supporter. I enjoy my football.
Millwall.
I spend a lot of sorry, Simon. Sorry. And I also I spend a lot of time at my house in Portugal, and I also go to the local club here in Portugal, FC Farense, who are in the top division in the Portuguese football. So and I still watch a bit of boxing. I don't watch a lot of boxing because I can't get into this celebrity stuff and this YouTube stuff. I've never watched Tyson Fury or AJ fight that Francis. Never get his name. Ngannou. I mean, I don't call that boxing. I think that's an insult to true champions and young boxers who struggle to make the grade, because boxing is the hardest sport in the world, and I think boxers should be respected, and we shouldn't have these clowns doing these fights.
Kelly, be wrong of me while you're with Simon and myself and the listeners on talkSPORT, it'd be wrong not to bring up the Olympics. And what we're seeing at the Olympics, Li Yuting and the other fighter, Imani Khalif, we've spoken about this time and again. Both have a real chance of winning Olympic gold, but they're both at the centre of this gender row, Kelly, which you'll be aware of. And last year, both fighters were banned from the World Championships by the Russian-led governing body, the IBA, after failing a gender test. Yeah, should they be fighting at all?
Well, this is a very toxic subject, and I blame the Olympic Committee, because they may not do the right gender testing. If they'd done the right testing and these girls were proven to have extra chromosomes or be more male than female, then they shouldn't box. But they're not breaking any rules. It's the Olympic Committee our argument should be with, and also with the Russian committee, because the Russians have not produced proof. They're just telling us about this. They're not showing us any evidence. And, I feel for these two girls. I mean, you can't help how you're born. I certainly can't help how I was born. I mean, I had a very privileged life as Frank Maloney. I don't have such a privileged life as Kellie Maloney, but I'm a happier person. But, it's very hard. And if you look at it, this girl's had 49 fights. She's been beaten 9 times. There was no complaints in the last Olympic when she lost to the Irish girl, Katie. I forget the girl that won the gold medal last.
Yeah.
And she's also lost to an English girl. There was no, so let's have the truth. Get them the proper tests and then bring out the real truth, and then we can make a decision then. They've not broken no rules, and that's all I can say on the subject.
Yeah, and you've spoken well on it. Kelly, we want to thank you, Simon and myself, for joining us this lunchtime.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we await with interest as to when it comes along. Knockout Blonde, the Kellie Maloney story, is available to stream exclusively on the IFC channel now. You mentioned, it was funny there when you mentioned Frank Maloney, who you were before you became Kellie Maloney.
No, I don't deny Frank. I can't. I'm not from that community that say my past is my dead past. Frank has made up who Kellie is. I've taken the best of both of them and tried to make myself a decent human being. I can't say Frank's dead because I'm not. I'm sitting here in this chair talking to you. So for 60 years I was Frank Maloney. So I can't run and hide from that. It's today. As the great Mickey Duff once taught me, doesn't matter what they say about you in the press, because tomorrow it's chip paper. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen now because we have the internet.
Absolute Mickey Duff. I remember him well, Kelly, with other people like Terry Lawless and Mike Barrett. Is there anything you miss about the world of boxing promotion?
No, not now. I think it's become too toxic. I think the promoters are trying to become bigger than the boxers. You know, boxing. What promoters and managers must realise, they're actually employed by the boxers. But unfortunately, we've only got a few boxers that really understand that. One of them was Lennox Lewis. Audley Harrison tried to change the face of boxing, but you know the establishment worked against him. And I was one of those people that worked against him to stop that, because at that time I was quite a high-profile promoter, and it was no interest to let him. But no, boxing today is totally different to when I grew up in it. Very much probably like football when Simon was a chairman. Football's changed a lot as well. You know, footballers now have more say in the clubs than people running the clubs, to be honest, I believe. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Do you like do you like the Saudi stuff, what's going on with this massive increase in the ability to make fights because there's Saudi money being thrown at it, and all the arguments between the Hearns and the Warrens and whoever else, and Kalle Sauerland has gone away because there's a big bag of money in the middle, sort of neutralising all the concerns?
Well, that will last while the money's there. Once that money dries up and changes, you will see that happily marriage end up in one bitter divorce. I don't agree with the Saudi arrangement because of their human rights activities. But I think the boxers are entitled to earn as much money as they can because it's a very short career. It wasn't around when I was there, so I can't really comment on it other than, I just wish their human rights were a little bit better than they are, and they treated everyone the same.
Kelly, we look forward to the Kellie Maloney story, Knockout Blonde, as and when it comes along. A final one for me. You say you had a lot to do with the documentary and the making of it and the decisions that were made, no doubt, as to what to include and what not to include. No doubt a fair amount of library footage. How do you feel when you see the old footage of Frank Maloney?
It's part of my life. Listen, you can't run from your past. I might be able to hide around the corner, but I can't run from it. So it's always going to be there. Things are always going to be brought up, what I said previously, my life when I was in UKIP. It's always going to come up. Some of the things I said, I just have to get on with it and say, sometimes I've made a mistake, and I apologise for the people if I've harmed them on that journey. But that's life. I'm trying to make up for it now. And for what short period I've got left on this earth, I'm just going to enjoy myself.
Too right. Thank you so much. Kelly, thank you so much for being with us this lunchtime.
Thank you. Bye, Simon. Bye.
Well done, Kelly. See you.
Bye.
Knockout Blonde, the Kellie Maloney story, is available to stream exclusively on the IFC channel now, before releasing across all major digital platforms at the beginning of October.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.